In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, a city rose that challenged the heavens. Babylon, colossal walls, bronze gates, and hanging gardens that shone like paradise itself. On the throne, a man who believed he ruled the world, Nebuchadnezzar, King of kings, Lord of peoples and nations. His word was law, his glory seemed eternal, and no army dared to face him. But no human throne is unshakable before the God who rules over all kingdoms. This is the story of a king who went from glory to madness, from pride to downfall, and from humiliation to restoration. A story where the majesty of Babylon bows before the eternity of the living God. The walls of Babylon rose like colossi before the desert, reflecting the glory of an empire that seemed eternal. Shining towers, gates covered in bronze, soldiers marching in rhythm. Everything exuded power. The Euphrates River cut through the city like a silver serpent, bringing life and grandeur. In the heart of this empire, on a golden throne supported by stone lions, there was Nebuchadnezzar, the King of Kings. Your eyes, piercing and firm, observed the riches conquered, and your heart overflowed with pride.
There is no kingdom like mine. Who would dare resist the arm of Babylon?
However, amidst the splendor, a defeated people was silently crying. Men, women, and children of Jerusalem had been taken captive. Among them, 4 young people with a firm look stood out. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Enslaved and taken to court, they represented the hope of a God who did not remain silent, even in exile. One night, Nebuchadnezzar was troubled by a dream. His breathing became heavy, sweat covered his forehead. Upon waking up, he shouted,
"Guards, call all the wise men, magicians, and enchanters. I want them to reveal the dream and the interpretation to me. If they do not, they shall die."
The throne room filled with frightened men. One of the leaders whispered,
"Your Majesty, tell us the dream, and we will interpret it."
But the king roared,
"No, you must tell me what I dreamed and also the meaning. That way, I'll know if you're not lying to me."
Panic spread. No one dared to speak. Then the decree was issued. All the wise men would be executed. Among them was Daniel, who, upon hearing the sentence, looked up to the sky and said to his friends,
"Let us pray to the God of the heavens, for only He can reveal what is hidden."
That night, Daniel received the revelation in visions. At dawn, he was taken before the king. The imposing room was silent, except for the sound of the sovereign's breathing. Nebuchadnezzar looked at him with disdain.
So, can you tell me the dream I had?
Daniel, humble, replied,
There is no wise man nor magician. There is no fortune teller who can reveal this mystery, O king, but there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets. He has shown you what is to come.
The king leaned in, intrigued, and Daniel continued.
In your dream, you saw a great statue. Its head was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and its feet part of iron and part of clay. As you watched, a stone, cut without the aid of hands, struck the feet of the statue and shattered it. The entire idol was reduced to dust, carried away by the wind, and the stone became a mountain that filled the whole earth.
Silence fell over the hall. The eyes of Nebuchadnezzar widened, for these were exactly the images that tormented him. He stood up abruptly, the golden robe dragging on the floor.
That's it. That's exactly what I saw.
Daniel concluded.
You are the head of gold, O king. God has given you power, strength, and glory. But after you, other kingdoms will come until the Most High establishes an eternal kingdom that will never be destroyed.
Nebuchadnezzar was astonished. His pride was mixed with fear. For a moment, his heart trembled before the revelation of a power greater than his own. He fell face down and declared before the court.
Certainly, your God.
Is God of gods and Lord of kings.
But even though he had recognized the glory of the Most High, the seed of pride had not been uprooted. The king's heart remained swollen, and the idea of being just one part of a statue deeply disturbed him. Deep down, a spark of defiance began to grow. If he were the head of gold, he would make himself not just a part, but the entirety of the glory. And so, while the palace resonated with the triumph of the interpretation, Nebuchadnezzar was already secretly plotting the construction of something that would forever mark his sovereignty. The distant roar of Babylon's furnaces echoed, heralding a new act of the divine drama that was just beginning. The sun burned high over the plain of Dura, where King Nebuchadnezzar had ordered the erection of a monument never before seen. The dust rose under the workers' feet, while hammers thundered and ropes pulled blocks covered in gold. When the last piece was in place, a colossal statue stood before the crowd, shimmering in the light as if it were the sun itself. It was not just the golden head of the dream, but the entire statue, from the feet to the crown, coated in pure gold. It was the reflection of the arrogance of a man who refused to be just part of a greater destiny. On the scheduled day, people, nations, and languages gathered in front of the statue. Drums were drumming, trumpets were echoing, and the king's herald proclaimed in a firm voice,
O peoples of all the earth, as decreed by Nebuchadnezzar. When you hear the sound of the trumpet, the flute, the harp, the lyre, and all kinds of music, bow down and worship the statue the king has erected. Anyone who does not bow down will be immediately thrown into the burning furnace.
The crowd trembled. The sound of the instruments filled the air. And like waves, everyone fell face down before the golden image. All except 3 figures remained firm: Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Their eyes did not turn to the statue, but to the invisible sky above them. Soldiers grabbed them and dragged them to the king's makeshift throne. Nebuchadnezzar, with a fiery look, stood up and shouted,
Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not worship my golden statue? I give you one last chance. When you hear the music, bow down. Otherwise, you will be thrown into the furnace, and what God will be able to save you from my hand?
The 3 young men, even when surrounded by warriors, responded with calmness. Hananiah spoke first.
O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to answer about that. Behold, our God, whom we serve, can deliver us from the furnace and from your hand. But if you do not, know, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the statue you have erected.
Nebuchadnezzar's face twisted in anger. He shouted to the guards,
Increase the fire 7 times more. Tie them up and throw them now.
The flames roared like enraged beasts. The soldiers who approached were consumed by the heat, falling dead at the edge of the furnace. But the 3 young men were thrown inside. The crowd held its breath. The king on his throne leaned forward to see better. His eyes, accustomed to victory, now widened.
Didn't we throw 3 men tied up into the fire?
Yes, O king.
So, I see 4 men loose, walking unharmed in the flames, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods.
Silence fell over the plain. The fire that was supposed to consume became the stage for a miracle. The young people walked through the flames as if they were crossing a garden, and the radiance of the divine presence shone. Nebuchadnezzar stood up with a choked voice.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here.
They came out and the crowd was amazed. Not a single hair burned, nor any smell of smoke on their clothing. The shaken king proclaimed before everyone,
Blessed be the God of these men, who sent his angel and delivered his servants. Therefore, I decree that no people speak against this God, for there is no other who can deliver like this.
The crowd cheered, but inside Nebuchadnezzar's heart, the battle was still not won. He had recognized the divine power, but his soul remained dominated by the thirst for glory. For him, the experience was not a surrender, but a confrontation with a mysterious force that needed to be understood or challenged. That night, the king wandered alone through the marble corridors of the palace. His hands touched the cold walls. And their thoughts burned more than the flames that could not consume the young ones.
If this God governs over everything, why did he choose me to reign? Why does he show me signs but not take the scepter from me? Maybe it's because I'm still destined for something greater.
The night wind passed through the columns, bringing the echo of the trumpets that had announced the worship of the statue. Nebuchadnezzar took a deep breath, trying to understand the mysteries. But while seeking answers, a new omen began to take shape. Something more unsettling than the golden statue or the fiery furnace. And in the depths of the night, the king would close his eyes to find another vision that would change the course of his life forever. Night fell over Babylon, but Nebuchadnezzar's heart found no peace. He walked restlessly through the hanging gardens, lit by torches that danced in the wind. The murmur of the water falling in cascades did not ease the weight on his mind. Suddenly, a dream took hold of him with force. It was so vivid that it seemed more real than being awake. He saw before him a gigantic tree that reached the heavens. Its branches spread across the entire earth, and all creatures found shelter in its shade. The birds were making nests among its green leaves. The animals were resting under its canopy. And people used to eat its abundant fruits. The king gazed with pride at that majestic tree until a powerful voice echoed from the heavens.
Cut the tree and destroy it. However, leave the stump with its roots in the ground, bound with chains of iron and bronze, until the dew of heaven passes over it and it is humbled among the wild animals. 7 periods of time will pass until you acknowledge that the Most High rules over the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he wishes.
The vision disappeared, but the heart of Nebuchadnezzar remained in torment. Upon waking up, his body trembled and he immediately ordered,
Call me Daniel. Only he can reveal this mystery.
Daniel entered the palace, humble as always, and bowed before the king. Nebuchadnezzar, anxious, described every detail of the dream, his voice choked with unease. When it ended, there was silence as they watched the prophet. Daniel lowered his head and his expression became serious.
Tell me the truth. No matter how hard it is, speak.
Daniel took a deep breath, then responded with regret.
"O king, if only the dream were against your enemies. The tree you saw is you, Nebuchadnezzar. Your kingdom has spread to the ends of the earth, and your glory has reached the heavens. But the decree of the Most High is this: you will be expelled from among men and will live with the animals of the field. You will eat grass like oxen, and the dew of heaven will soak your body. You will remain like this for 7 periods of time until you recognize that the Most High rules over the kingdoms and gives them to whomever he wishes. However, as it was said that the trunk and roots would remain, this means that your kingdom will be returned to you when you recognize that heaven reigns."
The words echoed through the hall like thunder. The king remained silent, staring intently at Daniel. His wounded pride fought against the fear burning inside him. Daniel, in a soft voice, added,
"Therefore, O king, accept my advice. Renounce your sins by practicing righteousness and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor. Perhaps this way you will prolong your tranquility."
Nebuchadnezzar rose from the throne with heavy steps and walked towards the balcony. Their eyes wandered over the moonlit walls. The temples filled with incense and the streets bustling with life. He clenched his fists and muttered,
How can a man be compared to a cut-down tree? How can the greatest king on earth be cast down to the ground like an animal? No, I will not accept this fate. Babylon is eternal, and I am its crown.
Daniel, in silence, withdrew, knowing that the king's words revealed more than just stubbornness. They were signs that the prophecy was about to come true. The following days brought apparent calmness. Nebuchadnezzar resumed his routine of banquets, parades, and political decisions. The nobles bowed before him, and the city kept cheering his name. In his heart, the shadow of the dream did not leave. Sometimes at night, he would wake up with a start, hearing the echo of the heavenly voice.
7 times will be fulfilled.
A whole year has passed. The king seemed to have forgotten the warning. His heart, intoxicated by glory, ignored the call to humility. He kept building temples and palaces, convinced that his greatness would never end. Until one afternoon, as he gazed at the horizon from the royal terrace, the sun's rays reflecting off the golden walls, Nebuchadnezzar opened his arms and exclaimed in a resounding voice, capable of echoing throughout the city.
Is this not the great Babylon that I have built with the power of my strength and for the glory of my majesty?
The words were still echoing when suddenly a voice from the sky broke the silence.
O Nebuchadnezzar, it has been declared to you, the kingdom has passed from you. You will be expelled from among men, and your dwelling will be with the animals of the field, until you learn that the Most High rules over the kingdoms and gives them to whomever he wishes.
The king trembled, his body wavered, his mind plunged into darkness. His eyes, once full of pride, now lost their reason. The guards ran to support him. But he roared like a beast, tearing off the royal cloak, falling to the ground before everyone. And so the dream of the felled tree began to come true. The palace of Babylon fell into silence after the celestial cry. The nobles drew back, the guards glanced at each other in fear, and the king, once an absolute sovereign, fell to his knees, tearing off his royal adornments as if they were useless weights. His eyes lost the shine of reason. His body, overtaken by spasms, moved like that of a cornered animal. The servants shouted, but no one dared to come near. The decree of heaven had been fulfilled. Nebuchadnezzar was expelled from his own court. The man who ruled peoples and nations now wandered through the fields around the city. His bare feet sank into the damp earth, and his mouth, once full of powerful decrees, was filled with herbs and roots. The beard grew messy, and his hair lengthened and hardened like feathers. And her nails curved like sharp claws. The shepherds who were taking their flocks saw it from afar and murmured among themselves.
Is it him? Is this King Nebuchadnezzar, the conqueror of Jerusalem, the Lord of the land?
Yes, but the Most High humbled him. Who can resist his hand?
Days turned into months and months into years. The king lived under the morning dew, howling at the moonlight. And the animals of the field became his companions. His mind, consumed by madness, wandered between shadows and fragmented memories. Sometimes a human roar still echoed from his lips.
My Babylon, my glory.
But then his voice was lost in animal-like growls. Inside the city, the throne was empty. The nobles ruled in silence, fearing to conspire against the king, as they still considered him untouchable by divine decree. Seven eras passed, 7 long periods of humiliation in which the proud one was reduced to dust. Nature marked your body, but also prepared your soul. So, on a calm morning, when the sun was rising over the golden fields, something different happened. Nebuchadnezzar looked up to the sky. For the first time in years, his mind opened and the darkness dissipated like smoke before the wind. He took a deep breath, feeling the breeze on his face, and murmured clearly,
The heavens rule.
And in that moment his reason was restored to him. The animal was silent, and the man became king again. He fell with his face to the ground and cried, not from pride, but from repentance. Her tears mixed with the earth, and her heart was broken before the Most High. While still in the field, voices echoed among the guards who watched him from afar.
It's the king. Look, he's come to his senses. See his eyes. They're no longer filled with madness.
They ran, and soon the news reached the city. The nobles gathered, and Daniel, in the middle of the crowd, raised his voice.
The Most High God has fulfilled what he said. Now, as he promised, he will return the kingdom to his servant.
Nebuchadnezzar was taken back to the palace. His clothes were changed, his body washed, his beard trimmed. When he re-entered the throne room, the marble columns echoed the steps of a changed man. He no longer walked with his chest puffed up with arrogance, but with the demeanor of someone who had faced judgment and received mercy. The people crowded the streets. When they saw the king restored, they did not hear decrees of personal glory from him. but a song of surrender.
I, Nebuchadnezzar, look up to the heavens and bless the Most High. His sovereignty is eternal and his kingdom lasts from generation to generation. The inhabitants of the earth are like nothing before him, for he does as he pleases with the army of heavens and among men. No one can stop his hand nor ask, "What are you doing?"
The words filled with truth echoed like thunder over the crowd. Those who once feared him now respected him in a new way, not for the power of his sword, but for the authority of his experience with the God of the heavens. But deep inside the king, there was still something to be said. He needed to bear witness before everyone, not just his people, but all nations, that human pride is dust before the divine majesty. And so his mouth opened again to proclaim, this time not his glory, but that of the eternal God. And while the city celebrated his return, Nebuchadnezzar knew. His story was no longer that of a conqueror, but of a man who had been broken and restored to serve as an example to all the kings of the earth. The cheers were still echoing when the king, seated once more on the throne, asked for silence with a gesture. The light that came through the tall windows spilled over the marble and reshaped the room as if the sky, not gold, reigned there. Nebuchadnezzar took a deep breath. His gaze no longer had the hard gleam of pride, but the firmness of someone who had experienced ruin and found mercy. He began to speak, and there was no fanfare, just truth.
Peoples, nations, and languages, listen. Nebuchadnezzar I, I, Nebuchadnezzar, once raised my heart like a tower, but I was brought down, lived among the animals, ate the grass of the field, and lost my sanity. Then I lifted my eyes to the heavens and understood. The Most High rules and gives the kingdom to whom he wills.
A murmur spread through the hall. The princes who once bowed out of fear now bowed with respect. Daniel stayed in the shadow of a column, attentive. The king continued.
I issue a decree. Throughout the entirety of my empire, let this story be published so that the proud may remember. Glory belongs to God.
The scribes approached with tablets and reeds. Nebuchadnezzar dictated with pauses, as if weighing each syllable.
I saw a tree that reached the heavens. I went to that tree and was cut down, but the trunk was bound with iron and bronze, and the dew of heaven covered me until I confessed that heaven rules. Itoma, then my reason was returned to me. My honor was restored, and I returned to the throne not by merit, but by grace.
Daniel, called by the king, approached. Nebuchadnezzar looked at him with gratitude.
Man of God, your word was faithful. What advice do you now offer to a king who has returned from the dust?
Daniel answered gently.
Be fair, have mercy on the poor, judge without bribery, honor the God who raised you.
The king nodded, as if finally finding the way. Then, new days began in Babylon. The taxes were eased, judgments became swift and just. The temples of the idols grew quiet, and the palace doors opened to the humble. In the squares, people talked about the king's miracle. Some mocked in secret. Others, with teary eyes, repeated,
"The sky rules."
One afternoon, on the terrace where he had once boasted, Nebuchadnezzar gazed at the city. The sun was setting, igniting the walls with a light not from gold, but from the twilight itself. By his side, Daniel remained silent. The king said,
"Here was my downfall. Here I confessed."
Here also begins your testimony.
As night fell, the king called a meeting in the grand courtyard. Torches burned like earthly constellations. Amidst the people, the 3 young men who came out of the furnace were visible, firm and composed. Nebuchadnezzar raised his voice.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, in front of everyone, I give thanks for your God. I wish I had learned from your fire before knowing my madness.
Hananiah replied,
The Almighty writes straight on lines we cannot see.
Then the herald read the final proclamation.
Let it be known throughout my empire. The heavens rule, pride leads to downfall, and the Most High can humble those who walk in arrogance.
It was not a threat, but a loving warning, carrying the weight of a life shattered and rebuilt. That same night, Nebuchadnezzar went to his chambers. Before sleeping, he knelt.
Lord of the skies, I who thought I was the master of time, was counted like the dew of a morning. Keep me in the truth.
The room became quiet. The city breathed, and the stars seemed to lean over Babylon. Over the years, the king's reputation changed color. From a feared conqueror, he became a wise sovereign. Travelers would say,
In Babylon, a man tasted dust and found true glory.
In schools, the boys learned not only laws and measurements, but also the song of the restored king. And when Nebuchadnezzar's days were fulfilled, there was no despair in the palace. There was a ceremony. He called his officials and said,
The stone that strikes the feet of iron and clay will fill the earth. Governments will come and go, but the unshakable kingdom remains.